Hey Blade fans, so it's Kershaw time again at This Old Sword Blade Reviews channel. This is an oldie but goodie, and when I say oldie, I'd say the blur's been around for at least 5 years. Don't have any history on it. And you may be right if you think it's considerably longer than that this knife has been out. It's one I've carried off and on, here and there. I got a fairly wide selection to call EDC knives, but happen to like this one. I'm not usually a fan of bright colors. This was purchased locally. This is what they had. Found myself somewhat taken in by the color. Anyway, near as I can tell, and there's no markings on the blade, Kershaw calls this a Sandvik steel 14C28N. Although I don't recall it being that when I purchased it, but that's what a little bit of research has pulled up. So interesting. The markings on this are only on the right side of the blade. There is a model number, 1670 NBSW. The SW stands for stonewash. And the NB is probably the blade style, because they have made this in numerous blade styles. They made a kind of a wicked, interesting long tanto a while back, and they had done like tiger stripes on it and camo and you name it. They've had lots of different models of this, and some people collect only this knife and have dozens of different versions of it. It's an aluminum handle. You'll notice right away if you have this knife or you're familiar with it that that's not the stock clip. This is once again one of the things I do. It is a Pops clip purchased through Etsy. Got to wait a little while, but you get a nice thick titanium clip. This happens to be the split tail version, the slot in the middle, held on by 2 screws. And interestingly enough, the only options for changing the clip position, this is kind of old school, is either point up or point down. So we'll measure it up in a bit, but it is a liner lock with the SpeedSafe assist. There is lots of oomph behind this SpeedSafe assist. You just need to give it a little nudge, and it is out there as fast as any auto. So the funny thing is, if you're in an area where autos are not allowed, this is the next best thing. And then there are areas where these aren't allowed. So what can I tell you? As far as I know, you can't deactivate it. Maybe you can, but the spring is what keeps it in. That's the so-called detent, if you want to call it a detent. See, it's held in by the spring pressure, spring tension. Got some nice detail. The aluminum handle has these traction type rubbery granulate inserts. I liken them to like Talon grips, if you've ever put those on a pistol, where you can buy sheets of it or form fitted for it. This is a very similar material. Looks like it could be hard, but it's actually a little on the softer side. I'd call it a hard rubber. And it's got some grippiness to it. When you open the blade, you've got a little bit of jimping here that's actually quite smooth. That doesn't really prevent my thumb from slipping much. You've got probably a little more traction milled into the handle itself. It is a open back construction with 3 pillars. Open in the back. There is a lanyard hole, straight through. And let's get some quick measurements on the Kershaw blur. So I get an overall of just under 8 inches, about 7 7/8. I get a blade of 3 3/8, I would call it. I get a cutting edge of 3 3/8 pretty much. If you measure the blade to the end of the choil, you're getting closer to 3 5/8. And for thicknesses, the handle's fairly thin, under a ½ inch. The blade, if I get it up on the thickest part here, 3.1, 3.2 millimeters, not too bad. You'll notice that it's an anodized aluminum. I've carried it a little bit, and this is what starts happening to anodized aluminum. You lose the color. But that's okay. I mean, if it's a user, if you don't care about things like that. There's your nice branding on the handle. Not too often seen, but seen here and there. Not a bad little EDC knife, depending upon the variation, the model you get it in. This is a recurve. I'd call it a recurve drop point with a mild swedge at the top. You still have pretty thick point. It's hollow ground with a large flat. The grind only goes up about maybe 60% up the blade, 55, 60%. Well, let's look at it next to some of the usuals. First, the smallest of the crowd, the Griptilian. So we've got the blur being slightly smaller overall, very slightly smaller than the Griptilian. The Griptilian blade, you know, about the same really. Going to a larger blade, the Rat 1. Rat 1 is definitely larger overall. Handle almost an inch longer. Blade about a ½ inch or so longer. And finally the Freak. Pivot to pivot. Freak's a larger knife as well. Somewhere around 1/4 to 3/8 longer blade. About 3/4 of an inch longer handle. So the Kershaw blur, would I carry it as an EDC? Absolutely. Depending upon whether your particular jurisdiction is amenable to assisted openings or not. That could be something you'd carry. I've never had it accidentally open, but I'll tell you, I mean, it's got to be a purposeful push. But it doesn't have to go too far before that SpeedSafe engages and it's right out there. I could see knives like this dropping on the ground out of your pocket and popping open. It's happened to me. I'm not trying to say it's a bad thing or you shouldn't get it, or if you have it, that it's no good. Just an observation. You make your own choices, you make your own decisions. You buy the tool that fits your purpose, or if it's simply a collectible, then it's a kind of a fidget toy, you know. So there you have the Kershaw blur in the recurve drop point blade, Sandvik steel, aluminum handle, and a granulate rubber insert in the grip. Hope you enjoyed this. Give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you soon.